Mifflin Area School District regular board meeting on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021 is being held in the West Mifflin Area Middle School, 81 Commonwealth Avenue, West Mifflin, PA 15122. Meeting begins at 7 p.m. Opening exercises, pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Anger.
Here.
Alexandra.
Here.
Bennett.
Here.
Engler.
Here.
Stelnick.
Here.
Marshall. Mattis.
Here.
DeSanto. Blazevich.
Here. Presentations, Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We just had one presentation tonight. The presentation this evening is by RoboKind. RoboKind is a company that produces autistic-friendly robots and a host of other special needs. The facilitator this evening is Mr. Rick Oslabar, who has been doing most of the contact with the district. But also coming with him is the creator, Richard Margolin, who is going to give a presentation along with Mr. Oslabar. I got it. And would you two gentlemen please come up to the front here to give your presentation? Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me, members of the board and public. Thank you for being here. Want to give a quick kind of presentation and overview of what this is and what we do, and really kind of share and focus on especially the outcomes, the impact, and really the depth of the curriculum that comes with this program, and really help everyone understand both what it is and really to understand that this is more than just a neat piece of technology. I'm Richard Margolin. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder for RoboKind. This is Carver, a little robot here in front of you. He is one of our characters who's a facially expressive robot who is used along with our Robots for Autism curriculum to teach social, emotional, and behavioral skills to children with autism using an evidence-based and kind of researched curriculum. So I'm going to go through some of these elements really quickly. If any of y'all would like to ask any questions, please feel free to stop me at any time, but I'll kind of jump in. So RoboKind was founded in 2011 with really the core principle of taking technology like this and bringing it into the classroom along with curriculum, professional development, and everything you need to make this work. And the reason for that, and the reason we exist, is because prior to starting RoboKind, I worked for another robotics company. We did large human-sized robots, and they were very expensive, and I supported research at major universities all over the planet into autism and saw the potential for something like this. And it was too expensive, too fragile. It was never going to kind of work in a school environment. So I left and we started RoboKind with the intent of getting this technology to a place where it was both ready for the classroom in terms of the actual robots, both the cost, durability, everything, but we know that there's no magic here, so we needed curriculum, software, and all the other things to make this real. Today we are fortunate enough, we've had this in classrooms for just over 6 years. We're in, I think, 43 states and 14 countries now, and it's helping make a really positive impact for tens of thousands of students every day of the school year, at least. Now it's a little slow. We have Carver here in front of us. We have several characters. We think having diversity, equity, and inclusion represented for all students is really important, whether we're talking special ed or anywhere. So a variety of characters to help with representation for whoever your students may be. Let's get into what I think is the more important stuff, which is the curriculum. So we have a social emotional learning curriculum. It's endorsed by CASE, which is the Council for Administrators of Special Education. We're actually currently the only SEL curriculum endorsed by that national organization. That was a multi-year review by special ed directors from all over the country, looking at both our curriculum, but also the research and evidence behind it, and a lot more. I'll talk about some of the studies later, but it was something that made us very proud. We just got that endorsement last summer after 2.5 years of working with them. As I mentioned, everything we do is evidence-based. We don't want to do anything that's not going to, doesn't have strong evidence that's going to make a positive impact in the classroom and help students. And this has now become a broader social emotional learning curriculum, but it started as autism and autism spectrum disorder as the focus, and this kind of expanded through special ed. And now the pandemic and younger kids, frankly, needing some additional support in the SEL areas. We're seeing some of our schools that we've worked with for years start to implement it in the pre-K to third grade kind of age range as well. High level overview. We've got kind of some big categories and then a lot of curriculum under each category. So we start with what we call the Robo Quiz. It's the introductory lessons and games, and it is got kind of hidden in it basically prerequisite skills assessment, because we want to baseline every student when they come into the program. So any games and other things we're doing are being measured against their own individual baseline, which in special ed is extremely important. No two kids are alike generally, but in special ed and especially autism, I've seen it myself, and I've heard plenty of teachers say you need one person with autism. You've met one person with autism. So we want to make sure that this course covers as much as possible that's going to help as many people as possible. So first, after the prerequisite skills, we jump into calm down. And so this is the big one that is kind of the highest impact and fastest impact. So kids who have regular meltdowns and other behavioral outbursts and things like this benefit from this the most. But it also changes the classroom dynamic. So if you have a special needs classroom that is, say half autism, and you have kids who, 4 to 6 kids who are having regular meltdowns, you've got, those can be pretty intense, and depending on the kid, it can be everything from just completely shut down and become non-responsive to violent outbursts and biting and kicking and things like that. And so these tools help kids learn how to really intrinsically kind of develop these skills and use them themselves. And that's really, really impactful in the classroom. Very rewarding for, I think, everyone. And it changes the classroom dynamic, because now, instead of managing behavior for large portions of the day, staff gets more one-on-one time with students, more time on task teaching, all kinds of things like that. And so it really kind of helps. And then we jump into kind of conversation modules. This helps with everything from basics of just reading and leave taking, which is saying goodbye, into the more advanced conversational dynamics. Emotional understanding is facial expression recognition and learning to express and practice yourself. And then situational practice. This is going to recess, a play date, birthday parties. And when you dive into this curriculum, I won't go into the depth of explanation I did earlier, Mr. Souls, but it's when you start trying to break this stuff down into its core components and then build it back up and teach it, you see how strange some of our social protocols are, and understand why these are specific things that need to be taught for kids who aren't fortunate enough to kind of get it innately. see if this video plays. Here we go. Okay, so I don't think I have audio here, but so this is Cole. He's 14. He is prior to ever working with Milo, disengaged, nonverbal. So here's his first time or second time working with Milo. He's leaning in, he's fully engaged, and since we don't have the audio, you can't hear it, but he's actually speaking. And so after a second time going through our intro to greeting lesson at 14 years old, he went home and said hi to his parents for the first time. And this was actually during one of our first studies and was a pretty incredible moment. Now, the other side of that is, so he got how to say hi, he got it very quickly. That's where the rest of the curriculum comes in. So his parents were, of course, amazed. And then within 2 weeks, he was saying hi all the time, anytime you made eye contact. And then we had to progress to the rest of the curriculum. So the third lesson in the greetings module is when to greet. So we got there, and then things got even better. So that's just kind of a little piece, but we increase engagement in ways that people can't with this population. I want to be really specific about that. I think we do with others, but I have good data, so I can make the claim confidently that we increase engagement by several multiples. The kind of secret in traditional therapies like this is you typically are only engaging your students in the traditional human-to-human version 3 to 5% of the time. And we know in education, engagement is one of the most important starting points. And with this robot in our program, we're getting between 60 and 90% engagement. And so going back to the increased time on task and things like that I mentioned earlier, that's kind of how we get there and what our starting point is. Besides the robot, we also have a virtual version of this program now that we developed last year with the pandemic to support remote and blended learning. So whatever the world throws at us, we'll be able to keep supporting your students, whether on site, remotely, blended, what have you. We also have iPad versions and now browser-based versions and things like that. So whatever devices you're running, we can also support you. So we've done everything we can to make this just as easy as possible and as usable as possible, no matter what the world is throwing at us. So besides that, we have our data portal, and I'll pull up a report so you can kind of see what the data we collect and then how we report it. Everything we do, again, we try and make actionable and useful in the classroom, and then at higher levels of reporting, make more useful and actionable, whether it's at the classroom level, school, or district level, so that you can see both what's happening, especially in the school board's position, that it's being utilized effectively, and get a sense of the outcomes that your students are having. In terms of research, we have I'm going to go high level, touch on a few, but we at this point have more than 30 independent academic studies, as well as case studies at everything from kind of individual classroom level up to multi-year longitudinal studies with state departments of education across multiple districts and thousands of students, that's out the Carolina Department of Education study. One of the big highlights out of that we saw in the first year and stayed consistent in the following years after that is 90% of the students who worked in this program demonstrated mastery. I'll read it and then I'll explain it, resulting in observable, generalizing transference to human-to-human interaction. That's the outcome. We are taking the skills, we're starting with the robot, we're going through the rest of the curriculum. There's a lot more than just the 142 technology-lit lessons, but ultimately, what do we care about? It's these kids using these skills with other people. That's all that matters. And we do it with 9 to 10 of them, basically within the first year. And we saw actually over the next 2 years of that study, we actually do it with closer to 95% of them. Some kids just need a little more repetition. Other one, I mentioned the increased engagement. That was one of our first studies. We know engagement is a starting point in education, it's not an outcome. Outcomes are the generalization. And then, in terms of age range, so Orange Grove Center in Chattanooga, Tennessee is an amazing facility. They are a community center in Chattanooga. They work with people with special needs of all types, birth to death age range. We've been fortunate enough to work with people as young as 2.5 there and through transition age and into adulthood. And so they're kind of our one source right now for showing that we can actually help not just very young kids, but even people who are transitioning out of public schools, the 18 to 22 range, and even into later in life, and still have positive outcomes. So the other thing I don't want to skip over, we have extensive professional development. This is not a program where we drop a robot off and say, here's how you use it, good luck. Our intent is that this can only be successful if it's being used, and if your staff understands both how to use it effectively, but we try and go well beyond that. We want everything to be really a positive impact in the classroom. So it's, of course, how to use it, but also how to use the data and make it actionable, but well beyond that, how to generate your own curriculum in this style using the best current evidence-based practices, things like social narratives, visual reinforcement, video modeling. Some of these things are just crossover to best practices in education generally, and some of them are kind of unique to special needs, but we teach all of it, and we are very hands-on, and we're in your life forever is really kind of what I'm getting at, whether it's teacher having difficulty with an individual student. All of the people who would be helping on our side are former teachers, behaviorists, things like that. We have great resources and we're accessible all the time. And we have, people who've basically been in the education space, really all parts of education and all levels. And so it's classroom type implementations, it's whatever you need, we're gonna be there to support you. So that's kind of this portion of the presentation. If you want more information, please email us, reach out. Rick's available, either tonight or whenever. There's his email address and phone number, and then for other information, just our website also has research sections and great videos of it being used in the classroom and things like that. robopen.com. So before I move on and answer any questions at this point, the next part's what I hope is the fun part, which is actually getting a robot to do something. All right, I will move on. So let me pull this up real quick. All right, so sorry this is behind y'all, but I will do my best to kind of keep everyone in the loop for what's happening. So we're seeing basically the teacher side of it, and the audio is not streaming from that. So I have the student tablet over here. They'll be holding up to the mic, so when the videos play and things like that, hear what's going on. But we will pick one of the kind of earlier lessons in greetings. Actually, let's do leave taking, so that as I'm finishing the presentation, we can all learn how to say goodbye. I guess before, we have lots of data, lots of information and breadcrumbs, so how long is this lesson going to take? Don't worry, we're not going to do all of it. We'll just do the first part of it, so this won't take 7 minutes. Also high-level overview, what is this? What are we trying to accomplish? And then in the case of, this student has run it one time before, and Carver up here will start talking. You'll see, for those of you who are facing them, you'll see some chest screen images that are flashcards reinforcing important vocabulary. The speech will be very slow, and paced, and deliberate. We found that slowing that down helps kids with auditory processing issues have more time to absorb what's being said. And then we use social narratives as the basis for how we teach, which is effectively just process-oriented learning. So the process you'll hear, the social narrative, is when we leave someone, we look, we smile, we say bye. you'll hear it again and again, and then we'll quiz. So that's what we're going to see, and so let's get to it.
Hello.
Hi.
We have talked a lot about green. You just gave me a green to say hello. You look at my face, smile, and said a great word. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when you are leaving someone. This is called leave taking. When we are leaving a friend, we look at the friend's face, smile, and say bye. I can say bye to other kids. I can say bye to grown-ups. Bye can be a formal or a casual leave-taking word. Let's see some of my friends saying bye. Look at the tablet. Bye. Bye. See how my friends looked at each other's face, smiled, and said bye. These were good. Ways to leave someone. Let's watch more friends. See if they can do it right. Do they look at each other's face? Do they smile? Do they say bye? Look at the tablet. Bye. My friend did not do something. She needs to try to look at her friend's face, smile, and say bye. My friend did not do something. What does my friend need to do?
So, and here we get to the I guess, student assessment part, and since we're showing the teacher side, basically what the teachers get is the ability to tap the no response button, which pushes the lesson forward. And then the students get the flashcards as the answer buttons, which we found help students who are very young and may not be literate or may not be literate for other difficulties and things like that, which has helped us help a wider range of students and have I think a more better impact. So that's kind of, I'll stop the lesson there if we keep going. It's very repetitious, it's intentional. We find these students need a lot of repetition. The only other thing I guess I forgot to mention is the parent resources. So besides all of this data and all these other things, we have the technology delivered thing, a portion of the curriculum, the generalization activities, which there's 142 right now in growing technology-led pieces or lessons in the curriculum. There's another 265 generalization activities. That's the let's start using this with other people portion of it, which is important, but we need to start with the technology because that gets the engagement. And then we have the parent resources, which both explain to the parents what's going on, give some overviews of these evidence-based practices, social narratives, but also creates a new version of those generalization activities. They're very specific for the home because the way we tend to think about it is concentric circles of support. And so we need families involved and being consistent in the way they're kind of helping support their own kiddos, just in the same way that your teachers will be hopefully using this program to do that. And we find when all of it's really implemented well and everyone's participating, the progress you see for our students is really, really impactful. So I think I hit on everything. If there's, again, any questions, please feel free to ask. But thank you, Rena, for having me. Yes.
Do you have actual statistics on how many nonverbal students became verbal And approximately how long it took?
I don't have statistics on that specifically. I know going back to like that pretty large state of South Carolina longitudinal study, they called out very specifically in the second year report that one of the major observations across what was cumulatively about, I think, 1,700 students across the state, that they saw nonverbal students both becoming verbal or learning to more effectively learn assistive communication devices. But that is, I don't know specifically what that is. I know between either learning to speak or just better using a communication device, it's a large percentage of the students we work with, but I can't quantify that for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? I have a quick question. So the parent portal and the information programmed into the device, is that all collected and housed in the same place so that parents can see progress, the same as teachers can see progress?
Yes, so we, all under generally HIPAA and FERPA compliant kind of data structures and access levels and things like that. It's the individual student report, I guess, is effectively the same as the parent can see it or teacher. We're looking at, there's a whole big kind of what I'm calling a phase 3 data project this summer to expand that in a few new ways. And so we because we're in the schools' lives that we work with, we are talking to people constantly to understand, what's the next thing that would be really helpful. And so this is not a static program. This is both in terms of the software, the curriculum, which is arguably the most important part, as well as the reporting features. We are, not just kind of willy-nilly, but very intentionally pushing that forward constantly so that your students will have really good outcomes.
I would like to see some more like statistics. This is expensive. For some amount of money, we could have a teacher in a classroom with benefits. It's just like some more information about how the big correspondent actually we could use this just differently in curriculum, or we could add a first year teacher with benefits for this amount of money. It seems a little expensive, but like really any numbers.
Sure. I understand that perspective, but I think the reality is the curriculum and everything that we're providing is enabling any teacher, even if they're not an expert, to basically facilitate what is a really expert level curriculum. And the other side of it too is we know staff turns over periodically. This stays consistent. This stays there and provides that consistency no matter what else changes. And for your students with autism, that consistency and minimizing those types of transitions is extremely important and impactful.
The virtual version of the device is the same curriculum. It's just done through an iPad instead of the device itself, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah. And so, we know that there are still good outcomes with that, but the robot, and this isn't just our program, there's a lot of research into this more broadly with lots of populations, but the people interact with the 3D object in front of them a lot differently than an on-screen character. And for the same reason that if I always, at least this is me, so I'm not putting this on anyone else, but if I'm on my iPad and something else pops up, I can, end up somewhere else and not even realize it. Carver here, Milo, all of our other characters, they're there for this purpose, to help these students in this way. And that's how they're used, that's how they're thought of, and that's how they're engaged with. And I think that's important. That said, you'll have access to all of it.
And then the devices, so that device, and I have a lesson, can I then easily transfer my lesson to another device?
Yes.
That I'm not tied to one device, that sort of all devices and I can interact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right before we got started, I made the decision that the other iPad over there was going to be tough to screen share from, so I switched live to the browser without even, ending the lesson. So it's as easy to use as possible. Our goal is, the IT stuff. We work with your IT staff to get it going. Like, that's our problem. Like, we do everything we can to make the things that the teachers, the facilitators have to do to just be pick it up, teach, and use it as the tool it's meant to be used as.
With the purchase of the 5,
You get one of each character?
Absolutely, whatever you want. That is 100% your choice.
Can you also tell me how many school districts in Western Pennsylvania have these?
I believe it is, I think it's 14 or 15 districts, and I think the total school count is 28. I looked it up. That is Pennsylvania in the whole. I didn't narrow it down to Western Pennsylvania, just to be specific.
Are you looking to release new versions of the device anytime soon?
There'll be a couple of years. These are pretty up to date as is right now. As the technology guy, I'm always thinking about that, and I want to do it all the time. But the reality is it'll be at this point, I think, somewhere between 2 and 3 years before there's a refresh. And these guys will last, many years in the classroom. And so, we'll when there's a new version, we'll probably. I'll just say we'll have a trade-in option, so it'll be easy if you want to go, but we won't, do anything that'll make these stop working. Yeah.
Currently, you're using an iPad with these. Is this something that can be compatible with a laptop? Most of our students have laptops.
Yes, absolutely. So the student side is running on an iPad right now, and the teacher side, which we're seeing up here, is actually running off my laptop right now. I'm just wirelessly connected to the projector in the back. So anything with a browser pretty much can run the version that's running on my laptop right now. And we did that to try and be as device agnostic as possible, because we know a lot of special ed classrooms have iPads. That's not always true. And also when the pandemic hit, we know not everyone got iPads sent home with them. So again, this is about impacting outcomes foremost. This is our mission.
Wonderful.
How many students would this apply, would we utilize?
These might utilize K through 8 with the life skills of autism support. This will also be utilized in grades 4 and 5 for computer programming as well. So, and again, we can utilize this in K1 just as a social teaching tool as well. So hopefully, if the board agrees to move forward with this, it'll be utilized heavily throughout the K through 8 programs.
Do you have utilization reports?
Yes.
Like number of hours per week or something like that?
Yes.
Like per device?
Yeah, so we have, the way we tend to break it down is by classroom, by teacher, and then by student.
And our administration gets to see that.
Yes, yeah, so we have support for kind of whatever hierarchy you need in terms of administration has kind of top-down access to whatever granular level they want to see. Yeah, the one other thing that I'll pull up real quick that I think is helpful in terms of some of the alignment. Let me see if I can make it a little bit easier to see. All right, I'll just focus on the important part. This is our Iup Goal Alignment. So we know every student in special ed has an individual education plan. And this is kind of the chart version, and we have this integrated in other ways. But basically, these are all sample IEP goals, not anything we made up. But this is from the sample database available to every teacher from the National Association of Special Education Teachers. And then with this, we have a matrix of here's a sample IEP goal. Student will engage in appropriate cooperative social play interactions initiated by 4 out of 5, by at least 4 out of 5 opportunities to do so. And then here's all the lessons that apply to that. And so this is, you'll see as I scroll, many pages of this. And so again, we try and really provide the tools necessary to make it very easy to make sure that each student is having their individual needs met effectively. And I will credit also that this is something that a special ed director who was one of our earliest customers helped create for us and said, you guys need this. And she was right, and we've maintained it and grown it as we continue to grow the curriculum. So, my hope is that this would be a partnership and not just a sale, frankly. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate
you
it.
all for having us.
Mr. Esper, Mr. Marshall, present.
Yes, I have.
Mr. President, that concludes tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. 3 addendum items.
Yes, Mr. President, we have 4 addendum items. On the purchasing and contracting, number 8, it's recommended the board approve the quote from ASL for door hardware at the high school, middle school in the amount of $2,204.56. Also, number 9, it's recommended the board approve the purchase of 5 RoboKine robots for social learning and computer programming at the cost of $95,312. Under district operations, number 8, we'd like to add F. It is recommended the board approve the actual report as presented and submitted by Officer Gunther and Officer Eagle. And letter G, it is recommended the board approve the posting of the RFP for transportation services in accordance to the school code of 1949. And that's all.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Bennett,
Second.
second by Mrs. Kostelnik. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Hager,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yeah.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blake.
Yes. Agenda 4, hearing of citizens. Public comment. In order to speak at this time, the following must be met. Must be a West Mifflin, Whitaker, or Duquesne resident. Matter must have been discussed through proper education channels. Direct comments to the board president or superintendent. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. If you have questions on items on the agenda, we'll attempt to address those as we work through the agenda. Diane Stanesik.
Diane Stanesik, 2803 Glenny Lane Extension. One of my questions is an agenda item. It's with regards to the budget. Did we get an answer back from the Department of Ed with regards to those Duquesne students that they want to take back? If we've not gotten anything back, an answer from them, then, and they come in after we approve this budget, then what effect is it going to have on the budget? Because there's going to have to be shared funds from grants. So that's one of the questions. The other one is there a fund balance? What is it and how did that come about? I had a couple questions on these board of director listing of policies, but like for example, on item C, 201.2, proof of registration, it has delete. But I didn't really have time to go through and see if it's in the admission of the student or what. But since this is the first reading, I'm gonna kind of like pay attention and go through that and see if I can find where it's located. Because you would have to have proof of residency. The other thing I would like to comment on is the roadblock. I think that being an aunt of an autistic child that is a student at Clara Barton and runs through, hot and cold with the way, he is, meltdowns that he's had as a result of some of his behavior. He was denied recess as a punishment, I guess, of some sort, which is perfectly fine. Like when he's with me, he has a stuffed animal that he particularly likes. He acts out, I take it away until he decides to behave himself. He learns real quick. But I think this is awesome. And is the total cost $95,000? Is that the total cost?
Total cost.
Then I don't really think it's too expensive. That's gonna help these students. Thank you.
That's for 3 years.
That's going to be read up that. We buy more. We'll keep those costs. Right, but there's a $5,000 per robot.
Annual maintenance. Teresa Suckley.
Teresa Seckley, 110 Main Entrance Drive. I have a couple of questions. One, page 5, item number 3, regarding the FBR. Just curious why we're spending $130,000 when they bill our insurance. I know Mr. Solomon explained it a little bit to me. But where are those people? I don't understand what they do for the district other than the counselors that come in. Because that's a lot of money. That could be 5 more robots, in my opinion. The other question is, why are we stopping the robots at 8th grade? What about our high school kids? They have proof and, things that these help older kids with autism. Why are we stopping at the 8th graders? What about our 9th through 12th graders? Wouldn't they benefit from this program as well? Especially with social and emotional types of things. My last question is that I do know that Mr. Manchenko retired at the end of the year. What are we gonna do to replace him? It's a program that these children have started since 3rd grade. I know it's gonna be big shoes to fill because he was an amazing educator as well as an amazing support to these children. Are we looking to replace him with another teacher? Or what is the plan? Are we gonna stop, orchestra in certain grades? I'm just asking so that I know what to expect for next year for my own child.
Thank you. Harry Thompson.
Harry Thompson, 6679 Adams Avenue. I have a question. I had talked to somebody on the school board before about the $400,000 scoreboard that we have and the payments for advertising on it. And I was told that they had paid up front last year, or for this year, school year. Now, are they going to expect to have their ads displayed this school year coming up? Or are they for free, or are they going to have to pay for it again? This year that we're in now is a donation. Just curious about that, because me personally, if I didn't get what I paid for, I'd expect either a refund or them to do it again the following year. So to me, it seems like in one of these years, either this year current one or the year coming up, we're not going to get paid for those ads that they're going to be running on the scoreboard. Thank you.
Thank you. Atia Malloy.
Aaliyah Malloy.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked like it was, your A crossed the L. I'm sorry.
809 E Drive. I noticed how there were no new hirings, and so, it's kind of related to what the other lady said about Mr. Danchenko retiring. I was wondering if there was going to be, what was happening with that, if there was going to be anybody replacing him, if you were, it said no new hiring, so I'm assuming nobody knew, but I don't know if it was going to be, teachers already in the school, or what was gonna happen there, because there are so many students that really rely on that course, me being one of them. And like, you know, he would help so many students, I don't know if there was gonna be somebody else who was going to, you know, fill that place.
Thank you. Before we move on, do you want to address Mr. Danchenko?
Within our scheduling, as our enrollment is decreasing, and we are equipped at the end of this year to educate 3,000 students, and we're roughly over 2,400 right now. We are resizing as per our demand and our students. The music department, another personnel who was a former music person has moved over into the music department, and those classes will be kept going through the rest of the personnel within the music department. So we're not cutting any programs, we're not cutting any classes, we're just utilizing our schedule better and better utilizing our personnel that we have at this time. If the demand goes up and there's an increase in interest, then all four, we would come back to the board and ask to add another staff member or a half staff member to fill that need. But at this time, we feel confident within the middle school, high school schedule, as well as the elementary, that we'll still be able to offer all those courses for all the students.
Joe, did you want to comment, or Mr. Souls, on the school board question?
Yeah, we are amending the contracts of those people who purchased since the ads got late, that got put up late this year, to account for that.
There were some advertisements placed on.
Yeah, just this spring we'll put advertising.
And then I think the other items are going to be a part of the agenda as we move on.
Well, the Duquesne students were budgeted as they won't be here because that's a revenue. So the revenue for Duquesne students was decreased by the number of outgoing seniors, which I believe was 36. So that was adjusted as far as, I don't think that's going to have any effect on our grants that I'm aware of.
And I think that the question was, have we been notified?
No, the state is not. We just had an AEC meeting at the state, Duquesne, East Allegheny, and they just submitted their plan on the 14th, and I believe PD doesn't have to give them an answer until the 30th of June. So knowing PD and their way of handling things, we should know in July.
So we have budgeted as they're not coming back, and if they come back, that will just be more revenue we will get from Duquesne.
And Joe, do we have the fund balance questions? Do you want to address that real quick?
Yeah, we have money, we're not broke. We're not running a negative deficit. If you're asking me what our fund balance would be at the end of this year, I don't have an answer for that.
All right, thank you, Joe. 5 information items.
We have 2 information items this evening. Letter A, per the guidelines of Act 39 of 2018, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the West Mifflin Area School District did not perform lead in drinking water testing during the 2020-2021 school year. The district will resume doing testing on drinking outlets in the upcoming school year, and the results will be discussed and posted at the June 2022 meeting. Information item B, congratulations to Mariana Budzinski, Erica Brack, Julia Laser, and Mariah Lewis, all of Team Helios, and Jocelyn Bakota, Bree Benson Richards, Annalise Lasutis, and Liliana Smith, all of Team Atlas, who were selected as the middle school 8th grade students of the year for the 2020-2021 school year. They were selected as students that went above and beyond during their years at the middle school, in the classroom, around the school, and in the community. That concludes the informational items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. General fund budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully ask for a motion, second and approval of the following items. 6A, numbers 1 through 9 on page 2. All items were discussed last week. There was a minor change to the homestead exclusion. The maximum reduction was increased from $239.05 to $239.58. So it was increased by 53 cents per homestead.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Engler, second? Second. Second by Mr. Bennett. Questions or comments?
I have some questions, please.
Mr. Alexandrov?
Going back a few months ago, we took out a tax anticipation note for about $5 million, I believe, Mr. Esper.
I got the approval to do so. I have not yet.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Well,
To
I'm
make through payroll for the summer, because we may be short with money. Going back a month ago, I had several conversations with Dr. Souls over a period of 2 weeks, trying to see what our fund balance is for the school district. Finally, after about 2 weeks, an email was sent out to everybody that our fund balance was $6.5 million. And whenever I inquired Mr. Souls, did that include our CARES Act money? He said no. Very surprised it was this large. So you think if it was something like this, it would have been loud. I have questions on what the fund balance was either. It shouldn't have taken me that to get some information. I'm just not happy about having to press that hard to get some numbers. Are we gonna have to use this TAN note at all during the summer to make payroll?
it's a line of credit and we don't have it in place yet.
Are we gonna need it to make payroll during the summer?
We may, and that's why you would have a line of credit as opposed to actually taking the money.
So if we have that much cash sitting there, why would we use the line of credit?
I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
And why did we even bother doing the paperwork to take it out to begin with if we had that kind of money sitting there?
Nothing has happened yet. So the motion was to get the approval for me to do it.
Why bother doing the motion if we got that kind of money sitting there?
So when, Mr. Alexander, when you're
I
asking,
can't get a straight answer, Mr. Esper.
have you ever asked me?
Yes, I tried calling you, you will not pick up the phone, sir.
You've never.
I tried calling you more than once, you will not pick up your phone.
Did you leave me a message?
You wouldn't answer the phone at all, sir.
Mr. Alexandrov, we're going to move on. Any other questions on number 6? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
No.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Ustalik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazer.
Yes.
Mr. President, everything passed on that passed on a 7-1 vote.
7, Board Secretary, Business Managers Report.
Okay, this is items 1 through 7 on pages 3 and 4. Everything was discussed last week. We did get the premium for the property and casualty insurance and liability, and that was $393,788. So that was added from last week.
Mr. Souls, one of the questions came up during public comment was about the policy 201.2, proof of residence deletion. This is likely somewhere else.
PSBA is doing our new policies, and they are combining some of them. So ones you see are deleted, could possibly be all wrapped up in the, I know that there's 201, in the admissions of students, or some can be deleted if they recommend they become administrative regulations because they were more procedural than policy.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Mattis. Second by Mr. Marshall. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blaze.
Yes.
7B, finance numbers 1 through 3 on page. You know what, I apologize. No, that's okay, we're good. Yeah, page, numbers 1 through 3 on page 4. Number 3 is added. Now this is going to go into conjunction with C6 for the award of the RFP for the home built wall. Since we don't have checks out of the capital, or out of the construction fund, we're going to transfer $309,230 to the capital projects fund. So we can pay as we need to pay as that project proceeds.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Engler,
Second.
second by Mrs. Costello. Questions or comments? Judge, just to clarify, B3, that's a transfer and that's associated to C6. Yep.
Yeah, so if you were going to vote against C6, the RFP, you would most likely vote against that.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett, Engler,
Yes.
Stalnick,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blaze.
Yes.
7C, purchasing and contracting numbers 1 through 9 on page 4 and 5, and it does include the 2 addendum items that were passed.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Costello,
Second.
second by Mrs. Ahern. Questions or comments?
Just a comment. I have a hard time voting yes for $309,000 for a wall. But rest assured that we have looked at every option to repair this wall. There's no way to tear it down. There's no other option. It's been going on for years. And unfortunately, it's in our hands now to fix. It is coming out of the capital improvement budget project fund. So just wanted everybody to know this wasn't just a fly-by-night idea. This has been looked at by architects, and this is our only option.
And Mr. President, item 7 was not on the agenda last week. We did talk about item 6. Item 7 is the contract with the AIU for the pre-K counts program. It'll be held in Elmville Elementary, and they will pay us $500 a month for a 3-year term.
I just wanted to make comment because it was brought up in the public comment session about robots for grades 9 through 12. Is that something, Mr. Souls, that's on the horizon? Or I understand this is kind of exploratory and this is a start.
Again, we have 5 robots. They're versatile. They're able to be mobile. So if we do see a need at the high school, we could definitely move one out to the high school and bring it back to the middle school or what have you.
We can always add,
And we can always add more as we go.
we don't want to overbuy.
Well, and again, Mr. Shaw is doing Mr. Lick doing all the good work up there with the life skills program, with the community, they go in career, we'd like to focus on that a little bit more.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blazevich.
Yes.
We're on to 17 minutes. Number 1 on page 5.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Kostelnik, second by Mr. Bennett. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
E-reports numbers 1 through 5 on pages 5 and 6.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
F1 on page 6.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Kostelnik, second by Mrs. Ahern. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
G invoices numbers 1 through 3 on page 6 and 7. 1F was added from last week, and that's a for filing fees for legal tax service.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
7H, numbers 1 through 3 on page 7.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ahern,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis, Blazevich.
Yes.
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Esper. 8, district operations.
Yes, Mr. President, we ask the board to approve A through E. E was added. It's recommended the board approve the plan for flexible instructional days for the 21-22 school year as presented.
Mr. President, adding A through G. A through G.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 2 addendum items, F and G.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mattis,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes. 9, superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. President, under 9, superintendent report, C, buildings and grounds, we'd like to ask the board to approve the senior bingo starting back up on August 21st, as long as all requirements and regulations are open at that time. And also the baseball field on June 23rd, 30th, and July 7th for the Beaver Valley baseball.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Kostelnik,
Second.
second by Mrs. Ahern. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Kostelnik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
10, professional personnel.
Leave of absence, Mr. President, we have 1 and 2. For leave of absence for employee 1989. And we also have sabbatical leave for employee 2082. Nothing under B. C, we have retirement. The board approved and ratified employee 2239 effective Tuesday, 15th, 2021. It is also under D, hiring and transfer. It's recommended the board approve the assignments of transfer as presented within district. 2, it's also recommended the board approve the following teachers as needed for the summer school positions. 3 was added. It was recommended the board approved Leah Oliveira to the position of full-time ELA teacher at the middle school effective for the 21-22 school year at the master scale step 1. And under E, is recommended the board approve the following graduate credit reimbursements to Mr. Chad Perry and Mr. Jeffrey Saltman.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Engler. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blazevich.
Yes. 11, non-certified personnel.
Mr. Blaze, so I give the board a quick update. Mr. Saltman, how many students do we have participating in summer school this year?
190 as of today.
90.
100,
190.
So we're very happy with the students taking advantage of the summer school. Thank you. Under 11, non-certified personnel, leave of absence. It's recommended for the unpaid leave for employee 246, as well as 3473, 3087, 3483, 3548, 3387, 3567, and also employee 3465. Under B, resignations. These are all just came to us this week, so this is all new information. The board is recommended to approve the resignation of paraeducator Claire Barton. Also, another paraprofessional as a ESY program, and another paraprofessional that was supposed to work in the ESY program. So we have one resigning from a full-time position or a school year position, and two just for the ESY program in the summer. Nothing under C. Under D, hiring and transfer. 1 through 5 was presented earlier. Number 6, this was new since last week. Just recommend the board approve the transfer of Tamara Mack to a custodian on the 3 to 11 shift at the high school as posted position of the CIU Class 1. Also, number 8, recommend the board approve Maura Paffrey to the position of highly qualified special paraeducator for the 2021 school year ESY program. And also, the recommendation the board approve Judith Debbie as the nurse assistant at Homeville Elementary School. And also, it's recommended the board approve Dylan Martin be hired as the district technology technician at the starting rate of $16 an hour. And nothing under E, Mr. President.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Alexandro. Second. Second by Mr. Marshall. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes. 12, athletic personnel.
Nothing under A, Mr. President. B, resignation. Board approve ratify the resignation of Adam Minall, the high school girls head soccer coach, effective June 1st. And recommend the school board approve resignation of the high school girls assistant soccer coach. C, nothing under hirings. D, recommend the board approve Corey Catalone to the position of volunteer boys varsity soccer coach. And also, item was added, it is recommended the board approve the posting of the middle school girls soccer position, head coach position.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kostelnik. Questions or comments?
I'd like to comment on Coach Adam. He's only been with this program for a few short years, and he has taken the girls into a 180-degree difference in their performance, starting with scoring goals and winning, and the commitment to the fundamentals of soccer. And the girls loved and respected him, my daughter included. I know he has some family issues, that's why he doesn't have time for it. I hate to see him go, and as a parent, West Smith like to thank him very much for what he did for all the girls.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Other questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes. 13, substitutes.
Yes, under non-instructional, we have two substitute custodial, Tracy Bowen and Diana Lacy, and date they applied was 5/24/21.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Costello,
Second.
second by Mr. Bennett. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes. 14, conferences.
We have nothing under that, Mr. President, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. 15, board president correspondence. There were none. 16, executive session discussion. Personnel and legal matters were discussed. Board reports, committee reports were given last week in our working session. Mrs. Costello, would you like to give an update on the Steel Center?
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
I attended the Mon Valley commencement ceremony on June 8th, and I'd like to recognize 3 of our students who graduated from there. That was Austin Kennedy, Zachary Schaefer, and Sterling Smith from Mon Valley. From Steel Center, I'd like to thank Mr. Souls and Mr. Solomon for attending the graduation with me on June 2nd. And under automotive technology, Damian Calvert. Baking and pastry chef was Quinn Cosley and Renea Fuller. The carpentry was Gina Rybacki. Cosmetology was Jaden Benjamin, Kyla Fuller, Brianna Gaines, Sienna Kershey Chapman, Maya McGuire. Under culinary arts, we had Kalasia Ford. Diesel technology, we had Nathan Antonoff, Lucas Fagan, Christopher Hetherington. Under electrical construction, we had Colton Heflin. Health assistance, we had Jalen Cobbs, Shanjaya Coleman. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, we had Kai Jacobs Hall. Under welding, we had William Bursick, Justin Martin, Hunter Tucker, Cameron Bohm, Cordova Wine. And we wish all these students the best in their careers. And that so ends my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Costello. 18, solicitors report, Mr. Maddow.
I have nothing for public session, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Maddow. 19, old business. 20, new business.
Yes, I have an item I'd like to bring up.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes, due to my changes in my professional career, I unfortunately no longer can feel I can make contributions in my role as a school board member. You saw me coming in at 7:30 tonight. I have a new commitment, made a career change midlife here. So I respectfully ask that somebody makes a motion to accept my resignation effective immediately. I would like to thank the voters of West Mifflin and the students of West Mifflin. This has been a very educational experience for me. The one thing I've learned is, as an outsider, once you get involved, that there's a lot more stuff that you know about and a lot of things that you can and can't do. I fully stand behind every single vote that I've made as a board member. And I know that I'm leaving this district in much safer with our police department and the upgrades that we've made for security. I'd also like to thank Dr. Hoover, who worked with me when I was a board president, and he's enjoying his retirement. And I have full faith in the administration that has been hired, Mr. Souls, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Esper, to continue to move forward and do the right thing financially. It was reflected well by the state auditor general that we're moving in the right way financially. And Mrs. Sinesic, I want you to know for a fact that Mr. Souls came from a district that has great special ed, and I'm walking away feeling that this is him working with Ms. Silvis is going to move in her staff, is move this in the right direction. I know that's something that concerns you personally, and I feel very good about the way we're going. So that being said, I'd like to thank all my board members. I appreciate working with all of you. Matt, you've done a great job. There are 3 great candidates the one in the primary, I suggest appointing one of them to replace me as I walk away so that they can come in clearly. And I'd like to thank our solicitor, Mr. Mata, and Christian Mascio. Gary, my heart for you and your family. I have no comment other than love for you and your family and what your family's been through. So other than that, that's all I have to say. So somebody make a motion. Mrs. Ahern, you've taught me so much about education from a teacher standpoint. Thank you for everything you shared. We might not agree on votes, but I really enjoyed working with you especially.
Thank you.
So I'm stepping down.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Do we have a motion to receive Mr. Marshall's resignation?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ahern, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. Any questions? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yep.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blazevich.
Yes.
President, if I may.
Sure.
With the resignation being made and accepted here this evening, there's a process that we will need to have a meeting in July now. So we would have 30 days. Recommend that the board accept applications till some point in July, whenever that meeting would take place, to see if there are any interested parties in that position. Unless somebody legally, it's permitted that if somebody would make a motion for an individual this evening and could garner 5 votes, that they could replace that position this evening. You do not have to advertise it. It's the board's choice, but those are your 2 options.
I make a motion to appoint Aaron White for the 4 months to fill Mr. Marshall's position.
Is there a second?
To appoint Aaron White for the remainder of the term, which would expire at the reorganization in December.
Can we ask a question? Do we know if she would want to accept that?
I believe so.
Do we have a second?
Well, I seconded that.
Is that a second?
I seconded it.
Second by Mrs. Engler. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
No.
Bennett,
Yeah, I guess.
Engler,
Yes.
Pistonik,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and Blazevich.
No.
Motion passes 5-2 for my comment.
Any other new business?
Oh, yes, I do that. I think we need a moment of silence for Mr. Richard Crofts, who is a former school board member that passed away.
Do you want to hold that? We can have that now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stolnik. Any other new business?
Yeah, sure. Oh, I'm sorry. We having our meeting at admin in August.
Well, we will not need to have the meeting now since the board position was appointed.
August.
No, I'm just saying, my comment before that we would need a July meeting, we will not need one in July.
Right.
Unless other business comes before.
What she's asking is, we are going to move the meetings back to the borough next year.
Is that a yes?
Starting with August, or if there's a meeting before.
That's what I'm asking.
You're asking Mr. Schultz.
I'm asking
But
you.
that's up to the board, whatever the board wants to have it.
Do we want to put it to a vote to where we want to meet in the fall?
Okay, you have a vote. You have a vote to have it here, right? We need to change what we changed, right?
Well, the thing is, I've been holding off on advertising the meetings for next year, because knowing, the location could change. and I believe that the majority of the board did want to go back to the
That's
revenue.
That's why I would have to vote to make sure that the majority of the board.
We don't need to vote.
So do we have a motion to, does somebody make a motion for the location of the meetings and all this stuff?
Motion to have the meetings at the administration building.
Is there a second? Mr. Mattis is the second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
None.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
No.
Engler,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Max,
Yes.
Blazer.
No.
So that, Mr. President, that motion passed 4-3.
So we need Mr. Mattis.
And at this point, I mean, it's a majority of the quorum sitting. At some point, once you have a full quorum, again, that can change weekly.
Yep.
Your locations of the meeting, so I know that at one point, we actually, I believe in West Mifflin even, moved them from building to building when there was an issue about having some representation in West Mifflin South and North right after that merger took place, so you can change them at any time.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. Can you read that off again, Joe? The results?
Ahern voted no, Alexandrov voted yes, Bennett voted no, Engler voted yes, Costello voted yes, Mattis voted yes, Blazer voted no.
Thank you.
Did I get that right?
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Costello.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Ahern. Meeting adjourned.